Hi. So I read this book called The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich, A History of Nazi Germany by William L. Schreier, an American journalist. And so there were a lot of events that happened throughout this book. It's over 1,000 pages. And it says how Adolf Hitler and his party, the National Socialists, came to power in Germany throughout the 1930s all the way up until 1945. And it says that it gives a history of that nation, and it says that there was a Reich stage fire, and that the Nazis were responsible for that, or there's enough evidence to suggest that they did it. And that's how they got to power. And then it says that beforehand that United States had given Germany loans from 1924 to 1931, and it had given them loans so that it could help out with their economy, since after the First World War, the Treaty of Versailles, German economy went into a collapse, and their money was worthless until it became renewed again. There was a reset, and so the author says that he was living in Germany up until 1940, and then he went back after the war, and so he witnessed some of the events of the Second World War. He said that how Germany, it had started World War II by pretending to be Polish soldiers and attacking themselves, the Germany, and it was a false flag. And then afterwards they attacked Poland because it was a dictatorship, so similar to Germany, and Germany had signed a Nazi-Soviet pact, and so they split up the country with the Soviets, which were also a dictatorship under Joseph Stalin, and originally with the Bolshevik Revolution, and Hitler, it says that he was a Christian, the book, though he planned on eliminating Christianity, and this book says that. And it says that there's a quotation from him. It says that National Socialism and Christianity are irreconcilable or irreconcilable, and so he was planning on getting rid of that, and Hitler had pagan SS parades, and he bought pagan books. He listened to pagan music such as Richard Wagner, or is it Alfred Wagner? I'm not sure. And so yeah, and um, basically he was blaming the war on Jews, Jewish people, capitalists, Bolsheviks, which was Russia, and so it's interesting because he had a Nazi-Soviet pact, and so that they could against England and America, and then eventually he turns on Russia, and there are all these different countries in the Second World War which he turned on, and he tricked them, and he turned on Russia, and then Russia, it with the assistance of the United States and Britain and France, uh, it it fought Germany and with other nations, and but uh, uh, there's an interesting part in the book, and it speaks of NATO, which is formed after the war, and uh, how Hitler he said that National Socialism would rise again in his country, and they would take over the East afterwards, and so uh, I believe that's interesting, and the whole book is um, it details the rise of the Nazis, and like it it, it gives the assumption that um, the Nazis believed that their nation had been that way for hundreds of years since the Teutonic times, and so yeah. Um, uh, there was a revolt in the book in 1944, as well as there was a an assassination attempt there on Hitler with the so-called conspirators, which um, they're not conspirators because Hitler had committed treason originally in 1923, and so uh, um, the bomb was planned by people within his party and in his army, and actually in 1939 as well as in 1944 there had been bombs planted, and there had been other times such as when Albert Speer, his architect, Hitler's architect, had planned to eliminate Hitler by assassination. So yeah, and so the whole book is a whole volume, and I just thought it was really it was it was it was time consuming, and it took lots of months to read the book, and I recommend it. And if you ever get a chance, you should. Whoever is watching this should and is a reader of history and should read this book. Not only this book, but any books dealing with history and politics. After the war, after Germany was liberated, well, it was liberated by different groups. Some were liberating it, some were just taking over. and the West was being liberated by the Allies, and then the East was being taken over by Russia. Uh, and But they were all allies at some point, and all these countries are allies now. But it just gives a lesson in history of what people should be doing, and it's really interesting. So yeah, so this journalist William Lawrence Schreier, was an eyewitness to the events, and he said that he was misled, and but that he eventually woke up, and oh yeah, uh, Hitler. He said that that well, Hitler he he at first began by tricking the Austria, Czechoslovakia, and then Britain. He was gonna turn on them. So, but he eventually got them to agree to those agreements, which led him to take over, and then eventually he wanted to turn on them if they weren't going to join him. And another interesting fact is that Hitler, he said that the United States was too commercialized, and same with Britain, and they both were too Judaized, Judaized, Judaized. I'm not sure how to say that. Basically, they had too many Jews, and they were both, well, United States had many Negroes, black people, African Americans, and that was his belief, and then or that's what he said, and then the book ends off and says that uh, there's no evidence that, even though people claim that he committed suicide, uh, that there was no evidence of any traces of his body. There was bones, but there weren't any. There was no proof, like by the Americans and the English intelligence. But some say that because of the blasts of the Russians in the bunker, that um, it had all been blown away. So yeah, that's basically all I want to say for now. Thank you.